evening, and welcome to Indie Film Library's Tears for Fears video. I'm Jack Benjamin, and I'm one of two people who is going to be ranking every episode of A Ghost Story for Christmas so far. A Ghost Story for Christmas is a strand of annual short television films originally broadcast on the BBC between 1971 and 1978. In 2005, 20 years ago, it was revived for a sporadic second run, which has since become a yearly fixture in the seasonal calendar. Among the most prominent writers adapted by the series is M.R. James, whose protagonists modern audiences might describe as possibly neurodivergent, grappling with the complexities of socializing, or navigating repressed sexuality, while other stories might hint at horrific memories of trauma at the hands of England's private school system. With that in mind, there could be no better co-host than IFL writer Charlie Giggle. But without further delay, over to you, Mr. Slideshow.
I don't know what to say about any of that. Basically, I had this idea that we should do these podcasts on Indie Film Library. We both come from sort of writing backgrounds, but I've been looking at the old YouTube, and I think YouTube, is kind of cool. There's some cool stuff on there. There's fan-created stuff, and one of the things that I end up sort of brain deadly watching is these sort of ranking videos, iceberg videos, tier lists. So I've sort of forced Jack into this format where we've watched every single one of the Ghost Story for Christmas. That includes the original one and the BBC Four comeback, then the Gattis comeback. And we're basically just here to just sort of go through all of them, offer a little bit of comfort. I actually come from the village of Haysborough. I grew up there. So at the end, I'm going to have a little couple ghost stories there. That's where One for the Curious was filmed. And it's kind of reminiscent of a lot of the themes that are in there. There are always ghost stories and
Is that Haysborough?
yeah,
For the curious.
it's the church. Warning for the Curious. Yeah,
Oh, the church, yeah. I think the
the lighthouse is in there as well.
the dunes and the place that they actually do the digging is somewhere else though.
It's somewhere else. Yeah, the only bits in Haysborough is there's one little lane at the start when he's on a bike that I'm pretty sure is Haysborough. The lighthouse and then the church. Although at first I didn't recognize the church because when I first saw it, I was like, that is Haysborough Church. It looks like it, but the sea is too far away. But then, of course, you
Yeah.
remember that that's come in, three-quarters of a mile, even since I was a kid, pretty much all of the beach that I knew is now very much the North Sea, which is kind of weird.
Well, I'm glad we're starting here because we're definitely going to have maximized our clout with Gen Z now, as was the intent, right? The young people, they love to come back for the sea-based bants and to hear what was or what wasn't Wales Next the Sea or Haysborough in television adaptations from the 1970s.
Yeah, they'll love that. They're all over that.
I think we better get underway, right? Because we've
Yeah,
got
let's crack on. I'm excited to go. I like these
19 films to get through. Original run beginning in 1971, right? Except not, because we are counting what I would argue and what many people argue is the originator of the format, the Omnibus episode from 1968, the adaptation of Oh Whistle and I'll Come to You, My Lad.
This is a tale of the supernatural. It's the work of a man who wrote ghost stories as a sideline. The author, M.R. James, was an archaeologist, medieval historian, and a great expert on the early history of the Bible. He was vice-chancellor at Cambridge University during the First World War, and later became the provost of Eton, where he died in 1936. He's best known for his ghost stories, all of which have a peculiar atmosphere of cranky scholarship. The darkest of them is called Whistle and I'll Come to You.
Whistle and I'll Come to You, directed by Jonathan Miller, is not technically part of the A Ghost Story for Christmas franchise or whatever you want to call it, but it so clearly is the reason for all of this to have happened since. I think it was originally broadcast in May or something like that as well. So it wasn't even originally shown at Christmas. But obviously, in the years since, it's become part of, BBC Four's rerun fixture around this time of year. So that's where we're starting today.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful film. I don't know about you. I know it's one of your favorite films. I mean, Whistle I'll Come to You is so iconic for so many reasons. When I first heard the story, I literally heard it as a ghost story. A kid had kind of, ChatGPT style, he had sort of plagiarized someone else's work and tried to come up with his own ghost story, which was all basically the same as Whistle I'll Come to You, but it started off with a black shuck. A dog was there. And in the end, the guy gets so scared that he falls out the window and he like impales himself on the big spiked fence outside the hotel, which I can only imagine is him stealing the spot from Mortal Kombat where you get kicked off the bridge and you fall and you land on the thing. But yeah, it's a great film. I mean, come on. For me, it's an S tier film, all time classic.
Well, see, this is why I think it was a bit strange that we decided on doing this chronologically, because I also wanted a bit of anticipation as to, what's going to be in the top tier. And we're immediately starting with what is clearly the best film. 'Cause, yeah, I can't argue with you. It's clearly
I'm
got to
sure
go.
everyone would say it's clearly the best film.
If you take Whistle and I'll Come to You as a standalone film, which it essentially is, right? Because it's not part of the series.
Mm.
It stands up better as its own thing than the others. The others, there's some really great ones in there, but they work as an entry into the anthology best. They aren't always something that I think stands up as well as Whistle and I'll Come to You. And I think part of that is just how creative and it is in terms of its technical details, right? The sound design is absolutely amazing.
That man can eat a grapefruit.
Okay, so Michael Hordern obviously is integral to what makes the film tick as Professor Parkin, right?
Mm.
I'm not going to dispute it's one of my favorite performances ever, and it's also the reason why this is the only film of the 19 that I've attempted to show my partner.
Really?
Because it's just it's such an unique and at times hilarious performance, and I think intentionally so. Uh, I think our favorite part when we did the watch through together was because he's obviously so bafflingly socially inept, but there's something kind of relatable about it in certain moments, like when he's extremely awkward at the dining room table on the first night. Everyone else is like sitting in couples and he's alone and extremely conscious of that fact. So he just starts muttering and making noises to himself to just fill the void. And before that, you get this,
True.
you get when he first arrives at the hotel, the moment where he meets this strange portly hotelier, right? Who also has this kind of like complete social inhibition. He's incapable of addressing someone directly, so a lot of his words become weird mumbles that don't make any sense as well. But first of all, Professor Parkin ignores this guy's distress completely when he tasks him with hauling his luggage up the stairs. And the sound design zeroes in on this, right?
Oh, yeah, it does actually. It's a good point.
The guy he sounds like he's about to have a coronary. He is wheezing all the way up the stairs. And while this is happening, Parkin again feels the need to fill the void with his own noise, because otherwise he's going to have to address the fact that this man is in distress. So he's wheezing up the stairs, and this guy, he's just walking behind him going, hmm. And I thought, yeah, those are some lovely moments to encapsulate this character, and also kind of set up where the moral lies as well, because this is the only one that's introduced by the filmmaker, right? There's a narration at the start that says this film comes with a moral, and kind of clearly puts out what it is, which is, a warning against being stuck up. And
Yeah, just like the audience that he was reading to, because he was all up in those, was it Cambridge or Oxford? I don't know. But he was in one of those sort of academic circle, wasn't he? And he was sort of
yeah,
reading these ghost stories out to the fellow sort of the rationalists of the time, and they were often sort of the butt of the joke in his stories.
absolutely. And yeah, so I mean, going through this, so Parkin's on a little holiday to the coast, right? And he's alone in in his hotel. He goes for a trudge um, through the around the Norfolk coast. So I think you get some lovely footage from Waxham Beach,
Yeah.
and also into Suffolk, because the stuff that happens in the dunes is on in Dunwich. And yeah, he chances upon, first of all, a graveyard that is falling into the sea, because Dunwich, that's half of Dunwich, is just this place disappearing into the sea like Haysborough, right?
Yeah,
And
Siebel talks about it a lot in The Rings of Saturn.
exactly. And well, so he wanders through this graveyard that's falling into the sea, and he sees that one of these graves is basically half out the cliff. And yeah, again, harking back to this idea that he not only is kind of like ignorant of or distancing himself from other people's humanity, basically, in some places. His instinct is to immediately go and defile this grave by trying to rummage through its content in case he can find anything. He says, "Give a dog a bone," and he pulls out a dirty whistle from the side of the cliff, takes it home with him, which is, it's not cool to do even outside of the archaeological realm of things, but obviously it also illustrates how archaeology has moved on in the years since, right? Like if you can leave something in its original place, that's generally preferred, right?
Yeah, you're kind of required by law, I think.
He does not answer to those laws.
No.
He's robbed the grave. He takes it back to the hotel. He cleans it up, reads the inscription. Who is this? Who is coming? And he decides, because well, nothing bad ever happens to somebody like this. Oh, I'll just blow it and see. Ho ho ho. And I think you can work out the rest of the film from there. But yeah, before I let you jump back in, because I've talked a lot about this already, I did just want to say the sound design is one of the things that really marks it out for me. The cinematography obviously is beautiful. In some places, in the others, it's also beautiful. But the sound design is really what marks this out, because to my memory, there's no moment where there is non-diegetic music. Everything that you hear is in this world, in this universe, in this immediate vicinity, right down to the otherworldly, horrific noises that you hear in Parkin's dreams, where he's being chased by some apparition that he's invoked with this whistle. That's his panicked grunts from the end of the film that have been warped and changed in the sound edit, and I think that is really what marks it out for me as like the best piece of filmmaking.
Yeah, to be honest, I think you're probably right. And you're definitely right about the sound design as well, especially the sort of climactic scenes. Like, if it wasn't for the sort of screeching and just horribleness of it, it wouldn't have the same effect. It kind of is almost reminiscent of like The Ring, American variation. It has this sort of creeping tension. It's something that comes from beyond. And I think this is like this sort of pre-Christian magic folk traditions that have sort of existed, sort of either beyond the realms of especially Protestant Christianity after the Reformation. This is where he seems to find a lot of his horror, sort of where Tolkien found all of this great, brilliant sort of people of the folk and all that crap. He seems to find all of the scary stuff that kind of existed in that, pre-Christian period. And I think that's just part of the establishment that they came from sort of at the time. This very sort of patrician outlook, which I don't really know if it's still there in some places. I guess it probably is. But, so much has changed now, and it would seem odd to come out with this stuff now, because I don't think it would have the same impact as it did in a time when, the world wars were still in memory. I think it invokes so many just horrible, dark underbelly type things. And that to me is what makes all of the good Ghost Story for Christmases and all the M.R. James. It's that constant theme of pulling back to this sort of superstition and old folk tales and what we lost with the sort of taking of Christianity of the culture.
There's some aspects to it that maybe, well, for example, I think that Jonathan Miller played up more in this film than maybe was present in M.R. James's version. And we'll come back to this, I think, throughout the other films, is that a lot of his work is quite it's, for want of a better word, it's quite chummy.
Mm.
And a lot of the time, the chief work of these adaptations is finding a way to take that out and to put a bit more of the bite back into it, as is to what is happening to the characters, and for the audience to feel like there's some kind of menace that could actually relate to them, rather than something that's a curiosity that, gets kind of buried at the end of a nice, interesting, slightly scary, but ultimately comforting Christmas story, which is what M.R. James was initially kind of putting out. In some cases, I don't want the M.R. James Appreciation Society to jump down my throat for making generalizations here.
I'm sure there's nothing we can do about them.
We should probably just leave Whistle and I'll Come to You there, right? Because I think what it really serves as is a measuring stick for everything else. So we will end up talking about it plenty more, even though there's more to be said.
Yeah, true.
We've
got 19 films to get through as well. I mean, we should.
Yeah. Okay, well then we come to the first of the original run, right? And that is 1971.
Dr. Haynes arrived in Barchester Close in 1872, where he took up residence with his sister as a junior deacon. The dignity of archdeacon had long been the object of his wishes, and there were few who denied that he was admirably suited for the position. His predecessor, Dr. Pulteney, however, lived to a great age and showed no willingness to relinquish his post.
Which is The Stalls of Barchester, directed by Lawrence Gordon Clark, who also wrote the adaptation, obviously adapted from The Stalls of Barchester Cathedral by M.R. James.
I'm going for sort of A tier to sort of low A tier for Stalls of Barchester. It might just be because it was the first one. Maybe I'm sort of being a bit kind to it, but I really liked the whole cat demons. And I did thought, it had atmosphere, but it did have that one actor, the guy who I can only assume was given the brief to do some sort of working class and or regional accent. And it sort of comes out as a sort of odd mix of like, into Cockney. It really makes absolutely no sense.
And then a little Irish.
Yeah.
It's very, like Russell Crowe, pick a lane with your accent for Robin Hood, that kind of thing. Like,
it's absolutely all over the place.
No, so I think I've been kinder to The Stalls of Barchester than you have, to be fair.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, I put this 11th of my list.
Oh, interesting. I haven't actually thought of directly what I would rank. I have my grades that I've given everything, but I haven't actually thought about which within the grades are sort of higher in terms of actual numbered set. But then again, I'm a very malleable person, so I'm sure you'll completely change my mind over this.
I'm not online enough to have understood the assignment when you said that this would be a ranking list. So I immediately thought, oh, we're going 1 to 19, but you actually intended to make a S, A, B, C, D, F list. So I put this 11 anyway, and I thought that actually what I enjoyed most about this was that there's just so much like snark to it, to be honest. For example, at the start when the guy who aspires to be the archdeacon is kind of like resigned to walking through life behind this ancient old man that he just so badly wants to kick the bucket. And I think there's one line where it's like they talk about Methuselah in the Bible and whether or not it would be possible for a man to live to 900. And he immediately just goes, I think that it is entirely feasible within my experiences. It's like that made me laugh a lot, actually. And I guess that these adaptations aren't chiefly concerned with that. But
No, what about one should avoid fanciful thoughts, Letitia?
yeah,
That's
that was great as well. See, there's if people would sit through it, there's a lot of it's like a meme gold mine, and to an extent, I think that's true also of Whistle and I'll Come to You, but it's counterbalanced with like the moments of sinister moments or horror, and yeah, I like the cat. I agree with you.
well, it's A tier. I think if it's 11, we can't be having 10, 10 in S. You know what I mean? So I think it has to be A.
Well, I rated it 11, and I don't know where that would fit on your list. I've argued that it's good, but it's not like I don't think it's A tier. I would say 11 has to be B tier and no higher.
It does have to be B tier. And I
But
just add as well, Thelma Barlow, Dolly from Dinner Ladies was in it. Just wanted to add that.
yeah, you informed me of that I've never seen Dinner Ladies, but I did spot Richard from Keeping Up Appearances, who is
Yeah.
a repeat appearer in these adaptations. So it was nice to see Richard. Moving on then.
Oh, hello. Can I help you? No digging here. I beg your pardon? No digging here.
Okay, well, a warning to the curious: an amateur archaeologist travels to a remote seaside town in Norfolk, lovely, to search for the lost crown of Anglia, which puts this story in a soft part in my heart immediately because that's still on the coat of arms of the University of East Anglia from which I graduated. The three Anglo-Saxon crowns that were buried, two lost, one apparently still gone. And the amateur archaeologist unearths it. It seems to be because he lost his job in London and he sees this as a way of like either obtaining a new career or at least finding something that he can sell and live well again. And then he's haunted by a not remotely mysterious figure. It's described as mysterious in the Wikipedia blurb here, but you know exactly who it is from the very beginning, right? So it's the ghost of this guy who his family had a tradition of standing guard for the last crown. They knew where it was and they guarded it because as long as the crown is in the ground, nobody can invade East Anglia. I have this quite high, but I suspect not as high as you,
Oh, you're going to upset people.
because I know a lot of people love this one, and they love to shout "No digging here" and have a good old laugh. But yeah, I've got this sixth on my list.
Sixth. I'll say right now, I don't have it number one.
Well, we know you don't have it number one. You already just said that Whistle and I'll Come to You
True.
destroys everything.
I mean, if we're not putting that on the list, it's still not number two.
But
No.
I think we'll get to it soon enough. But there's one that is a lot of people's top pick, and it's not an M.R. James story. So anyway,
Nice House.
yeah, it's The Ice House. You're right. It's the greatest film. Now,
5 out of 5, more croquet.
the incest, the croquet, the flower talk.
Let's not skip ahead. Come on.
Ugh, yeah, okay. Well, you fucking put it in my head now.
Hey, the
I
sound
just
design
want
on
the
Wall
noises
Street
to stop.
The sound design in Wall and the Curious is also pretty good. They used the thing from 2001, right? When they're in space. I think it's fucking Ligeti or one of those fucking 60s, 50s Philip Glass, one of those weirdos. It's one of them. And I thought that was pretty effective. You know, whenever the fucking Don't Dig Here, he was around. That was pretty cool. And I do think there is something really rich to this sort of scene of East Anglia and ease of invasion. You know what I mean? I definitely think there is something to that, just like historically. Like you can tell just from the people around here.
No, absolutely, there is something to it, and I think that M.R. James was on this occasion well aware of it as well.
Hmm.
Um, it's one of the more accurate working class rural stereotypes that he's played up to. Because yeah, over the millennia, this has been like a point of easy access for people wanting to set up shop in the UK as the new rulers.
And you know, a wonderful coincidence with all of this that some people might not know about is that Haysborough, where so much of it was filmed, the lighthouse and the church, very recently, and I'm talking like 5 years ago, they found the oldest footprints that have ever been found outside of Africa. I wish I'd looked this up before now. I believe it's really a very long time ago. Yeah, it's like 900,000 years or some nonsense. It's absolutely, it's definitely not. But it is, they are very, very old. It's,
Well,
it's
I
such a
mean,
cool coincidence.
I will save you having to look this up because yeah, people are going to be criticizing me already for the fact that I've got a warning to the curious at number six. So the heat's all on me at this point. You're safe. However, completely inaccurate your history is. Um, I like the sound design a lot. I like so yeah, they play about with this kind of dull thud thing, which it at some points is to soundtrack somebody digging, and at other points in the film's really grisly punchline in particular, it is a sound that denotes somebody getting their skull caved in with an axe, I think, or a hatchet. And yeah, I really like that kind of like contrast. I think obviously the coast at Wells looks beautiful as well, and it was nice to see Richard crop up for his second consecutive appearance.
Yeah, he's back. So,
He's
so, so what is it that you think some people see in it that makes it their number one, that makes it not your number one? You know what I mean? Is that a terrible question?
I think they're old and they remember it from when they were young, and I
Ah.
probably will think kindly of things that remind me of when I'm young, when I'm in my 70s and 80s. But I don't think that we can give it a pass if we've just talked about the dodgy accents in the stalls of Barchester. There is an equally dodgy accent for the hotelier who lapses between that. Yeah, he's trying to sound kind of rural Norfolk, but at the same time, he kind of lapses into the Scottish hotelier from Little Britain. And
Ooh. Isn't there also like a Cockney woman in this who's pretty terrible?
oh yeah, yeah, I often look out over the sea. I do. My dad brought me here, and he sodded off. He did. Um, and then she. Sometimes I reckon I see an old tramp out there. Yeah, I think that the performances are ropey. Some of the script is ropey. The final edit comes together in a rushed fashion, especially in the earlier segments, where the vicar turns up at Haysborough Church. I think that that comes across as kind of sloppily theatrical. Like you could imagine it just being on a stage play, and if you're seated in the right part of the theatre, you can see off the side of the stage the vicar waiting to come out and deliver his line, and it felt like that. It didn't feel like organic, like anyone's just happening on each other or having an organic interaction. Um, I thought it felt a bit rushed and a bit synthetic, at least in the first half. The second half, I like a lot what it did, and I remember it being one of the earliest ones I saw, obviously, and one of the ones that scared me the most, particularly the moment in the hotel when the lights go out and this hunched figure kind of you start to see him in the candlelight, and he doesn't jump out at you or anything. There's just this idea that you can only partially see him, and there's so much more unknown horror in the rest of that frame that you can't see or understand. That really got to me. Um, I mean, Whistle and I'll Come to You also shit me up, to be honest, because I recorded it late night on BBC Four when I think I was about 13, and I was the last person in my house awake, and I kind of rushed up to bed after that because there was a bit of a storm outside. I'm a bit of a cowardly lion over these things, but
I think
yeah,
that's the main difference between, I think where me and you, we differ in our childhood, is the kind of things that I was videotaping that scared me were those horrible paranormal shows like Most Haunted and, all of that stuff. I was sort of, had already sort of branched off into reality television, whereas you had seen the light of the greatness of cinema. A Warning to the Curious. Do you know what? I put it at S rank in my thing, but I was lying to myself. I just didn't want to upset people. Do
I
you
think
want me to take
it's
it
worth an
down?
A.
Yeah, I think it's worth an A. I think it's scary enough, and I think the tension in the digging scene is high enough.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Agreed. Next on the list is Lost Hearts. And we're going to pretend that this is the first take.
How old are you, boy?
I'm...
12, next birthday?
Yes, sir. The 31st of this month, sir.
Halloween! Excellent. Couldn't be better. We shall celebrate, eh?
Thank you, sir.
It will be my pleasure, Stephen. Not too tired after your journey?
No, sir.
Good lad. You must eat a hearty meal. You're certain you are 12 next birthday?
Yes, sir.
And the 31st. Better than better. Benissimo. Forgive me. I like to note these little things in my commonplace book. Now, Parks, take this excellent boy down to Mrs. Bunch. Tell her to feed him well. Plenty of butter, beef tea. Nourish him. Nourish him.
You mustn't mind him, lad. He has his ways.
But why does he want to write my age down?
He's a scholar, is Mr. Abney. He writes everything down. This way, Master Stephen.
So this is a film about probably M.R. James's tortured childhood and a particular trauma within that, featuring some kind of cinephile. Because this is about a young boy who moves into the house with somebody who is supposedly his older cousin, who has a habit, we learn, of adopting children with no parents, no connections to the outside world. And those children tend to disappear, and nobody thinks anything of that for whatever reason. At multiple times, this old man asks the young lad to drink alcohol with him, to come up to his private study after the stroke of 12 of his 13th birthday, and he tries to take his shirt off. So you can read into that what you're willing to. I won't push that any further because Charlie is nervous about demonetization, although I don't think that we're going to get monetized in the first place. So
As a cinephile.
it's one of those stories where it's like, I think supernatural justice, and particularly supernatural child justice, which is still a popular kind of subgenre because the ghosts of the mysteriously disappeared Italian kid and traveler girl come back to get their revenge on the old man, and the credits roll over some extremely unthreatening mandolin music. So what do you think of this one, Charlie?
Do you know what I thought about this one? Like when I first saw it, and I thought it was really interesting that there was like an Italian kid, and I didn't know why I thought this because I've never seen any of the man's movies in full. But like I say, where our views diverged, I have seen Jimmy Carr presents Channel 4's 100 Greatest Scary Moments, and
Right.
this was the film in this series more than anything that really made me think of Argento. In the
Oh,
gore was used and this sort of relenting one shot, something happening, and the looks of the spirits reminded me of this sort of spirits in Argento films. And it turns out he is actually a big fan of these films. And he actually made his own version of what is it? The Treasure of Abbot Thomas, the Da Vinci Code one. And he called
Yeah.
it Church, which I haven't seen purely because I needed to watch, 17 other films before I watch it. And we ran out of time because you want to get this done before Christmas, isn't it? But yeah, isn't that interesting? Do you know what I mean? There was definitely, you could see that kind of Argento influence in it.
Yeah, no, I can see why he would like that film as well. Um, I think I've probably got this again lower than what you've got it in that case, but I do also
Really?
want to point out that this is cited as being, I think, one of Mark Gattis's favorites.
This was my number two, I think.
So you've got so much in common with him, see, and you're at war with him, but are you really?
No. So you think it's worse than A Warning to the Curious?
Yeah, I do have it lower than a warning to the curious.
I definitely have it higher than A Warning to the
I
Curious. I'm
just
seeing
think
the limits in our format now.
if we're going by and I don't believe that they're compulsory rules at all, but I think by M.R. James's own standard, it is quite heavy-handed with what it's doing with the ghosts. Ghosts treat them with care, the essay, and the need to hold off. Lost Hearts comes across as slightly indulgent in terms of its scares. And also, it's just, creepy black-eyed kids, which I think is a trope that, through no fault of Lost Hearts, it's been done to death in the years since in a way that makes me kind of bored of it. Um,
I like
but
to
on the
I like the scary scenes more than you. The scary scenes really got to me. Like I wouldn't say they got to me as much as, Oh Whistle, but they definitely got to me more than the scary scenes in Warning to the Curious.
Listen, the other thing is that this has a bit of the substance to it, not in a thematic sense or anything, just in a sense of. So in the substance, you see Dennis Quaid eat a bowl of shrimp, and he's like this repulsive, greasy studio director who's telling Demi Moore that she's too old and washed up to keep uh, for his studio to keep exploiting her body anymore, basically. And the rest of the film obviously is like supposed to be like gore and body horror, and
Right.
nothing is as disgusting in the rest of the film as Dennis Quaid. So everything that comes after that feels underwhelming as a result of that presence. And in this case, nothing put me at greater unease in Lost Hearts than the fucking cinephile who is just so utterly creepy in an overt this guy is a
I tell
child abductor way.
you know who he reminded me of a lot?
Who?
Michael Jackson.
Right, exactly. And
This
it's
sort of Peter
like,
Pan complex search for immortality. Is it just a sort of excuse for you know what I mean?
yeah, no, absolutely. And also on that note, obviously, you remember when Michael Jackson died, there was like a video circulating of a supposed ghost at the Neverland
Derek
Ranch.
Acorah summoned him on television.
None of that is as scary as Michael Jackson, the person, in real life. And the same is true of Lost Hearts. It's just gross. Every time that guy's on screen, he makes your skin crawl, and not for supernatural reasons. So, yeah, I mean, it's effective in many ways, and it may be an interesting kind of insight into life as a child in the era of M.R. James, when either you could become an orphan and essentially just be lost to people like this, or you could be shipped into a boarding school where you're away from your support networks and somebody would take advantage of you. And it would be someone like this who is going to quote fucking Latin at you and try and be your buddy. And it all boils down to whether he can get you alone and ply you with sherry.
Yeah,
It's
but
like
I still thought the kids were really creepy too.
look, the kids kind of look a bit creepy, maybe,
Something about the way they were shot when they were coming.
But it's also like, again, this is a trope that has maybe become more popular in the years since, so it's not necessarily the fault of Lost Hearts. But I think quite early I knew that this was going to be a supernatural revenge film, and therefore the threat was not really to the child protagonist, the person that we're supposed to relate to. The threat was to the cinephile who we should want to see dead.
That doesn't mean you can't relate to the child's fear of the scary ghost children.
To an extent, yes. You can relate to it, but you can only. I find it harder to relate to it in a sense that there's no mystery. And again, I don't think that these ghosts are treated with care. I think it's quite heavy-handed with how they're used, and so the mystery is gone. And once that mystery is gone, it is hard to relate to the kids' fear because it's like, yeah, they're obviously going to be on your side.
All right, fair enough. I'm happy to put it just below Warning to the Curious, but I do think there will be people out there who will remember this and when they're a kid and be like, "This was the scariest shit of all time."
Yeah, and they're going to hate me because I put this 10th.
Well, I don't know. It's not temp for me, but
I put this 10th and I put it behind multiple Gattis era.
oh,
So if you would like to email me
yes.
hateful messages, that's indiefilmlibrary@gmail.com.
No, no, a little slime bubbles under the door. It's a thing of slime, I think. Darkness and slime. It's an unholy thing. When the dawn comes, the sounds cease and I know it's gone.
The Treasure of Abbot Thomas. Again, it's directed by Lawrence Gordon Clark, but this one is written by John Bowen. And it follows a respected medieval historian and his protege as they do the Da Vinci Code thing, as you said, Charlie, to find hidden treasure of a disgraced monk in an abbey library. And there's obviously a running theme through these films, as we've talked about, where it's from a archaeologist perspective, you should try not to go grave robbing in the name of history, and it is kind of what they're doing, so things don't go well for them. What were your favorite things about The Treasure of Abbot Thomas?
I really like the medium scene. I thought the way they sort of build it up to make it look like, oh, it's all going to be a big scary medium thing, but then that turned out to be fake. I feel like that took quite a lot of the tension out of the film until a little bit later. But that middle part of the film wasn't terrible either. But it's the first time we've had like this complete vibe shift in the series, I feel like. I guess maybe Barchester had small moments where it sort of went into, wittiness.
Yeah.
But this one kind of changed into a different genre a third of the way into the film. And
I have to ask you
a mystery, but it was okay.
a question. Do you know the original story, The Treasure of
No.
Abbot Thomas?
No.
Okay, well, because I would really like to know if this is one of the first examples of that kind of bait and switch that you get in a lot of modern horror now, where the beginning is, all right, cynical guy goes to fake spiritual performance and trashes it. Oh, that's a bunch of old bollocks. Therefore, setting up the rest of the film as this is the real stuff. You should be scared of this. This is the stuff, and kind of building its own credibility on the back of breaking somebody else's.
Yeah, and it did sort of try to rebuild its credibility at the end, but it didn't for a while. It was quite happy to go a bit Da Vinci Code for a while. I was kind of rooting for them for most of it, which is kind of not what you're supposed to think. But because of the sort of the momentum of the search, you're sort of like, go on, find the next thing. Oh, he's he's rubbed a little bit of thing off the window and now he can see the next thing. It felt a little bit like a sort of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 side mission. It's not exactly the vibe that I necessarily want out of this.
No, I really liked it though, and whether or not it's in the original, that aspect, I think at the time was still quite innovative. So,
Yeah, it was a little bit Indiana Jones.
and also, as I was saying, the idea of trashing somebody else's like stuff and then being like, but here's the real stuff. I think that at that time, it's quite an early example of that kind of storytelling, which has gone on to become again a lot more mainstream. But I think it's one of the strongest elements of this particular story. That and I think the creature is the most visceral of the creatures that have featured in the A Ghost Story for Christmas adaptations. It's a thing of slime, I think, and it's like it's such a grotesque concept. This just thing that I assume is made out of like the disgusting, stinking mud that you get at the very bottom of like a canal.
That is probably true, but nonetheless, I did kind of start rooting for him.
Mm. Oh, I never said I wasn't rooting for them, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. Plus, to me, it's the first one so far that I can pretty confidently say, although I kind of appreciated the creature design and all that, it didn't scare me.
Yeah, no, well, I didn't say it scared me necessarily either, but I
But
think
Lost Hearts didn't really scare you either, at least the children didn't.
nothing scares me, Charlie. I'm a big, strong man. But obviously, when I was a teenager, I've mentioned several things that aren't particularly scary looking back at them now, that did
Yeah.
scare the shit out of me at the time.
Well, I don't like people in mascot costumes. Anyway, The Treasure of Albert Thomas. Where do you think of it? For me, it's below Lost Hearts. Do you have it above Lost Hearts?
I actually have it above Lost Hearts, yeah.
Do you have it above Lost Hearts, below Wall
I
into
have
the
it at number 9 on my list.
That's below Wall into the Curious. You have it
But
above
again,
that.
this is one of Gattis's favorites.
Yeah,
So
I can see that. The mezzotint, especially, is very reminiscent of this one.
again, you two have a lot in common, I'm just saying.
Sure.
I, I'm just going to check before I go any
We are
further. Is
both
it
great
Gattis
admirers
or
of Victoria
Gatiss?
Wood. Uh, I want to say Gattis, but I'm not sure that's right.
Oh, God.
I think it's Ga and then Tis. There's no gate there. There's no E. There's a gap, and then there's an E.
Well,
But
I
there's a gap.
apologize to anyone offended by my horrific pronunciation if it is indeed wrong. But moving on in that case.
Thou shalt seek me in the morning, and I shall not be.
We have the ash tree, which is another Lawrence Gordon Clark directed, but written by David Rudkin, adaptation of M.R. James, of a story of the same name. An aristocrat inherits his family estate and is haunted by visions of his ancestors' role in a witchcraft trial. Now, I've actually got this, I think, quite high, but I'm willing to be persuaded, I guess, because we need to fill out the bottom of this list.
Well, I have it at A. I really like the ash tree. I liked it a lot. I thought it had it was a feeling of like once I saw the all the witches and all the paganism and all that crap, I was like, here we go. Like this is the sort of pure M.R. James that then led on to, Crater Mass and all of that sort of Children of the Stones and all of that stuff.
Yes.
And it had all of the old, like the old sort of anthropological magic age before the religious age and what does that mean? And it had amazing hats. Don't you agree? Like the hats in this film.
You like a good Puritan hat, do you?
I think every single hat in this film was like a S tier hat. It was just good hat.
I never really thought of it like that, but I'm not going to argue against it.
Absolutely. And it reminded me a lot of The Wicker Man as well. That was cool. I think The Wicker Man was done before this, wasn't it? but it reminded me a lot of that, and it definitely reminds me as well of this tension where if you read like Old Testament, they don't sort of say these people who call themselves mediums and psychics, they're fake. There's only one true God. They say don't go to them because they're bad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in that in itself is a kind of it's a kind of linking between paganism and Christianity. It's kind of saying we're not saying paganism is bullshit. We're saying you're not allowed to do it, which in itself makes the paganism appear even stronger because it's sort of ratified as being real by Christianity.
Yes, but it is a necessary. I don't agree with it being an evil, but you know what I mean? Like, it
Yeah.
would be seen by Christians as a necessary evil in that case, because by having that big bad, you strengthen your position as the uh, combatant against it, right? There's got to be this big other that you can then go after, so that it justifies every fucking horrible thing that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wrote for some reason in my notes, I put top two most underrated roles of a medieval lord. I don't know why I wrote this, but
Yeah, interesting.
I put
What,
number two
what
in the list.
what's the top one?
That number two was stopping paganism, and number one was preventing against foreign invasion. I think some people think about, the old medieval lord peasant dynamic, and they sort of think, why did they put up with it? And I think one of the reasons they put up with it is because the Lord told them if those bloody French come over here, then we'll bloody get them.
All right, Hobbes. Like, this is so yeah, we've been through the Leviathan now. What I was going to say about this film that I liked, right? Is it's also like a kind of vengeance tale, but it's a lot less like it's maybe a lot less obvious about how it's happening and why. And
Mm.
I think so. For me, it worked better than Lost Hearts. Um,
I liked it better than Lost Hearts too, I think.
I think there's something about it that makes me feel it reminds me of, there's this exact quote about David Lynch, like a lot of the films he makes are really incredible. They're works of genius, but David Lynch is too stupid to understand his own genius. He like I read into the Ashtray a little bit afterwards, and one of the producers was talking about uh, he's not convinced that this is a good adaptation because he doesn't think that he's made the witch enough of a villain
What?
because they instinctively kind of pulled back from that because obviously that's a horrific thing to have even thought about doing because these people were grotesquely persecuted
That's
for things they didn't do and for a medieval land grab, a power grab. But
So it's accidentally really effective as a sort of tale of misogyny.
he sort of says, "Oh, we were aware of like the way that the witch trials are now thought of, and we were like, okay, well, we can't really do anything about that." And then he also noted that even in the M.R. James original, the witch obviously is noted as having powers and using them in this case, I guess, violently, but she's kind of presented as morally ambiguous at the very least and well liked by the locals, presumably if we attribute these actual powers to her because she had some kind of ability to help their crops grow or whatever, prevent illness. Uh, and so even in the M.R. James original, she's not really evil, but I think it's also like mentioned in the original text because I look back at that there's some kind of like uh he has some kind of wariness about just talking about them this way because even then there was an awareness that these people were just poor innocent people who were put to death for nothing.
Mm.
And so in both cases I feel like yeah they kind of did the right thing but in for reasons that they are completely oblivious to.
I agree. I thought it was a really good film.
So I've got that fifth on my list.
Um, I have it above Warning to the Curious.
Well, so do I. It's just a Warning to the Curious is much lower for me. Um,
Yeah.
so
I don't know if I want to put it S tier. I'm thinking about it. I don't know. I think if it would have come out like before The Wicker Man, maybe I would have given it an S.
I suppose.
Maybe that's unfair. I don't know. It's a really good film. I had one more hot take about this, by the way. This
Okay,
is my
great.
hot take of the evening.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about this kind of pre-religion magic and paganism and all of that that's represented in The Witch in this film.
Yeah.
I think that the strength of what made the Harry Potter product work was that it brought together those two worlds of the sort of private school, boarding school, you know, underlying sort of CE patrician elite with this sort of magical underworld in a way that legitimized both magic and the system and brought them together and kind of cut religion out of the entire sort of patrician British establishment. Is that good? Is that good concept?
I think that Harry Potter was a success because it ripped off the worst witch. And that's the end.
Okay, fair. Still like the ash tree a lot.
Yes. Okay. I'll agree with you on A tier.
You've been asleep. Don't worry, you have no responsibilities here.
Oh, forgive me.
You have no call to be here. And being here, there's no charge on you to do this or that. Sleep or wake, nothing will suffer for it. What brought you here?
I was drawn here.
Drawn? Yes.
The Signalman.
The Signalman. Now, this was the one I was alluding to earlier as being, in a number of people's opinions, the best of the series. And it's again directed Lawrence Gordon Clark, this time written by Andrew Davies, and it's adapted from the story of the same name by Charles Dickens, the mainstream king of Christmas ghost stories.
I think that's Kermit now.
Yeah, Kermit wrote A Muppet's Christmas Carol.
Exactly. You ask a kid who wrote Christmas Carol, they'll say Kermit.
A railway signalman tells a curious traveller how he is being troubled by a spectre that seems to predict calamity. Is the very brief overview that I've got written down here, featuring a standout performance, I think, from Denham Elliott, who you may know as Marcus Brody from the Indiana Jones films, among other things.
That guy was freaking phenomenal.
Absolutely. So, I mean, automatically, his weight of performance puts this high. The standard of the script also puts this high.
I'm really sorry for the hardcore M.R. James buffs who might be like, Dickens, but I'm going to go ahead and take this and put it right behind Whistle and I'll Come to You. That's my opinion. I think this is the second best of all of this genre and the best of the original run of films and probably the rest too.
This is, it is a pivotal moment in the original run that they managed to completely fumble afterwards, right? Because they were looking to take it not necessarily completely away from M.R. James, but they wanted to kind of move into other authors' works. They maybe wanted to experiment with modernization. And this was kind of like a compromise on that, right? So they moved away from M.R. James, still an established author, still quite a while ago in terms of the story it tells, but I think it kind of serves as a bridge to some quite modern fears that ordinary people alive when it was first broadcast would have related to, particularly about like the crumbling transport infrastructure of the United Kingdom, which hasn't gotten better, to be honest. So I mean, it's been a while since there was a major rail disaster, right? But
How long?
I don't want to. I don't. I don't want to jinx that. So we'll leave that there. Um, yeah, it's got a brilliant central performance, and it has an interesting kind of look at the way this one guy is consumed by and simultaneously alienated by his work, right? His extremely important work, which it seems like he does not get adequate support for at all. Um, he he is an extremely important part of the railway system, right, in terms of safety.
Mm.
And there's one of him. So whether or not he falls asleep at his job, if he had a stroke one day, whoever's on the next train through there is really on a hiding to they're done for, you know.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't think I have much more to say, to be honest, than this is just really good.
Yeah, I mean, it is really good. And I echo everything you said. And I think a lot of the themes that it plays with are definitely still around today. I mean, even if you're working, in a warehouse or something, you could so easily fall under a forklift and die. And,
Yeah,
it's basically this thing of you have to be, or if you work in a kitchen or there's so many jobs which are not, just, doctor, police, army, and all that, that you basically have to be really switched on for so much of your life that it can't not drive you insane. And credit to the guy, he comes up
yeah.
and he comes straight in and he says, "Doesn't it make you go nuts that you have to do this all the time?" And then he kind of falls asleep, and the guy sort of looks at him when he wakes up and he's like, "Don't worry about it, it's not your job." And he's kind of like trying not to be passive aggressive, but nonetheless, he is sort of accidentally being a bit passive aggressive. It's friggin' dynamite stuff. It really is. And it is freaking scary as well.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And the way that like safety culture in the realm of like the capitalist workplace is like completely individualized through a like corporate ass covering, and yeah, you are under no doubt, whatever rank of job that you have, however much genuine risk there might be, if something goes wrong, we've shown you this video, so it's your fault whatever happens.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's something that I think a lot of people could relate to when watching The Signalman as well. But yeah, the hello below there kind of
Yeah, how was that as creepy as it was? And the covering in the eyes of the waving, that was really creepy.
grim foreshadowing, because I think we innately identify those, those signals of distress as something that we have to interpret as an incoming threat. But they're just disconnected enough from literalism that they're in this kind of eerie middle ground. And
Yeah, like that scene in doing David Lynch again, that's weird. The Twin Peaks movie. Do you
yeah,
remember it's that weird woman and she sort of like does a gammy leg and she's got like some blue rose up there and she does all these weird things. And and then David Lynch tells you what they all mean.
yes, absolutely.
It
Because
does
he's
have
just got
that
the
kind of
code perfectly.
yeah, that kind of blue rose uncanny valley
But
uncanny.
everyone else sees that and they're like, well, something's wrong. I don't
Yeah,
know what it is though, so I'm kind of upset now.
yeah, it is just sort of somewhat upsetting. There must be something that it just hits in the amygdala somehow. And people have found this in pro wrestling as well. You look at someone like Daniel Bryan,
Yeah.
the jumping yes chants, like something about that yes chant just took over and it was everywhere. It was in baseball and it was just everywhere. Something about that sort of kinetic motion of jumping up and putting your arms in the air straight up and saying yes just really got over.
And also, right, one last thing I will say is like I think the moment that really chilled me, and I don't know if I found the signalman overtly scary, but there was this one moment where they're talking to each other in their initial exchange, and the subject of a tunnel fire comes up. And when Denham Elliott, he says, a tunnel fire is something to be feared above all else, right? That's just absolutely sent chills down my spine. Like, because you get this sound in his voice, like he's seen some horrible shit. And eventually he's going to get around to recounting it to you. So you have that to look forward to. There's just such a moment of dread hanging in that statement.
So true.
So, yeah, for me,
You kind of know it's foreshadowing all along, don't you? Like, it's not really a twist.
I was really in two minds about whether I was going to put this first instead of Whistle, and I'll come to you. And I think
Really?
what it
That's
boiled down to me is this is still the number two because it is still more conventional in its delivery than Whistle.
I think Whistle has more out and out scare value.
And Whistle has more scare value, but it is a close race. So this absolutely has to be S tier, right?
Yeah, absolutely yes to.
Now, coming on to a different S tier, perhaps. Our seventh film of the night is Stigma.
It's the old religion. I read about it in a book. They used to bury them under big stones. They thought they were witches.
I never heard that.
I read about it in a book.
Shall I do the honors?
Also directed by Lawrence Gordon Clark, and it's an original story written by Clive Exton. You may do the honors now.
Stigma is a weird freaking piece of work. It's the kind of thing that I'm not saying I did this, but you could put it on 4 times speed and you'd not realize that you'd done it. There are weird shots of people digging and a nude scene that does not have to be seen to be believed is the only way. Like, it is, if you imagined someone being like, shall we do a nude scene? And then talking to the woman and being like, yeah, but could you get your top off? And then her being like, right, but I don't really want to. And then them being like, oh, maybe show a nipple, maybe show, and she sort of ends up doing it, and the whole thing just goes on, and it feels like you're in the sort of shoes of a voyeur that is sort of here and telling this woman to do things she doesn't want to do. And then you sort of notice, because you're so caught up in the cringe and the awkwardness of the nude scene, that you notice she's bleeding about 3/4 of the way into it and completely miss half the plot that's supposed to be going on. It is a really, really odd piece of work. And I think the movie has one redeeming feature, which is that it's a bit creepy, but I think the only reason it's a bit creepy is because it was filmed in the place where they did Children of the Stones, like you told me.
I did tell you that, yes. The Avesbury Plain. Have you ever been?
No, I've never been.
It is it's a strangely static place. Considering it's got a motorway basically going through the middle of it as well. Everything feels like it stands a little too still there. So it is an eerie place that you could make something interesting in, and obviously they did with Children of the Stones. They didn't here. I noticed that you have sneakily already ranked this in F tier. I'm not going to dispute that, to be fair. I think, the topless scene is distressing in a sense that, nobody asked for it. The people involved, including the actress, are obviously intensely uncomfortable with it. And I from the voyeur perspective, I think it's more like, you do feel like a voyeur because you feel like you are just sitting in somebody's bathroom without their knowledge, and they're just going around. Because obviously, everyday life generally isn't erotic. So when breasts appear, it's not in an erotic context. It's like, I'm checking to see if I have a wound here or something. That's obviously not a sexy thing. So maybe that's why they thought it would be like, oh, it's in good taste or whatever. But it just comes across as being like even more weirdly exploitative for that.
Yeah, it did feel exploit. Like you say, you felt like you were sitting in someone's bathroom without their knowledge. I felt like I was sitting in someone's bathroom with a camera saying strip. It was awful.
See, now that would be something that you would find in a David Lynch film, though.
Yeah.
And I think that would be intentionally distressing as opposed to this, which I don't think that the point of the nudity is to distress.
But they didn't
It just
need
ends
it.
up being that way.
The extent to which they did not need it, I cannot express.
I mean, what was
And
the,
there's
what
almost
was
subtext that's probably going on with like the things, but honestly, the nude scene is so weird that the actual sort of moment plots and something's weird going on with the daughter and they're possessed, like it's all kind of a bit of a mush in my head. Like I can just sort of remember the 3 or 4 spots from it, and then I just wanted to forget about it forever. I really didn't like it.
the Wikipedia blurb doesn't adequately describe this either. It says after a young couple moved to a remote country house in the middle of a stone circle, workmen disturb an ancient menhir, unleashing a supernatural force.
They
And
do that for about 10 minutes as well. That scene takes so long.
everything takes so long except for the stuff that you feel like the story should actually be about, which is like condensed into the last 5 seconds.
Yeah.
So first of all, it's not a young couple. It's this woman who has to go topless for half an hour, and the lead actor from Mammoth is her husband. He is not young. Uh, he's the oldest looking handlebar mustache, kind of greasy 70s plump guy.
Yeah, no, it's wild.
And their daughter is also there, which does not get a mention in these write-ups, but
Was she kind of the point of it? I don't know, to be honest. It was
I
also
think that
a bit out there.
somewhere in there, the daughter was supposed to be the point of it, right? And that's
Yeah,
why she gets lumbered with the heavy exposition at the end, or like it's not obviously extensive exposition, but it's like load bearing.
you carry this.
After everything has happened, right? So this poor woman, she just starts bleeding, not even bleeding, she is leaking blood through her pores. And she can't figure out why, and it's because this grave in their back garden has been disturbed, and actually there's somebody who was murdered with knives in there. And the workmen dig that up, and they immediately start messing about with the corpse. Whether or not they think it is an old corpse, either way, those people are fucking morons and should have been the people who were getting tormented, by the way. Because yeah, if you find a
Was
fresh
it an
corpse with a
emergency?
knife in it, you shouldn't mess about with it. You should get the police involved. If you find an ancient corpse with a bunch of knives in it, you should contact, I don't know, an archaeologist and probably still the police. But yeah, they do that, and
The
then
police
this
will make
woman
that call
pays for
whether
it.
it's relevant or archaeological, I think.
Hmm?
I think what happens in that situation is they sort of come in, the police come in, they carbon date it, and then if
Yeah,
it's older than like 100 years, it's archaeological, and if it's less than 100 years, it's not.
absolutely. That's how it should go down anyway. And so yeah, after all this, and the mother has sweated herself to death. Then the daughter comes out of the house and addresses the builders and goes, "Yeah, I reckon that's the body of a witch. I read it in a book. I read it in a book." And then that's the end. And she has red nail varnish on now, which is really blatantly flagged up by the camera as if it's red is kind of a color of like I don't know how to put this, like it's a color of passion, of sin, and maybe there's an implication here that the daughter has become some kind of a witch and might be responsible for this, but that is so not
Honestly, I think
addressed in the script. I could well be just clutching at straws here.
it had Freudian pretensions.
Either
That's the
way,
best guess.
the load bearing X the load bearing story is delivered by her in this last moment. And as a rule, your twist in the film needs to be, it needs to be explainable and understandable to your audience within the universe that's been established, right? you need to have done something to establish that universe in the first place, though. Do not send somebody out to tell other characters and us, the audience, basically, oh, yeah, I just read this in a book and this is what it was. We couldn't be bothered to fucking foreground that to you properly throughout the whole rest of this. So, yeah, it just comes across as like embarrassingly amateurish. And this is the most amateurish of all the series.
Isn't it an adaptation of a book? It's not just not M.R. James.
This is an original.
Oh, okay. I assumed it was some kind of weird sci-fi story. It did have kind of a weird sci-fi-ish vibe.
It is the first installment in the series not to be based on a pre-existing work, and the last to be directed by Clark. So it saw him off, basically, I think.
It's a crappy way to end.
Yeah, and the series limped on for another edition after this, but I don't think it ever recovered from it. It's really bad, and so yeah, F tier, agreed. But as I said, it limps on.
The incidents are not.
Our guest wishes us to understand, Jessica.
You're joking, I think.
Then the only agreeable aspect that through
at all to help people get by. If one can do anything. Oh, in my own case, as far as my own work is concerned, one might say, if I may paraphrase Dr. Johnson, if one can do anything at all, to help people get by, get through life. The whole aim of my own work is simply to help people get through life.
What kind of life is it that people need helping through?
my sister means that if life is something merely to be got through, then the only agreeable aspect of it might be its end.
Perhaps you should assist people to end their lives, not to get through them.
Perhaps you do. Perhaps that is what our guest wishes us to understand, Jessica.
You're joking, I think.
In bad taste, my brother has very little sense of what is proper. Please forgive him.
I think we may agree that for most people, life is seldom pleasant. Life in an urban, industrial society, capitalist or not, it makes no difference, is at its best boring and trivial. The incidence of mental illness is horrifying and is increasing. For many, many people, life is not at all pleasant.
But it is pleasant for some.
And then we get The Ice House. That one is directed by Derek Lister and written by John Bowen. Residents at a health spa begin to suspect that a strange flower growing in an old ice house in the grounds may be the cause of a series of misfortunes. Also, brother and sister want to have sex with each other. They may be freezing their employees if they try to unionize. And the most divorced man in the UK becomes a willing victim of this situation. So, have at it.
Yeah, no, I'm going to go ahead and plonk this right on the end of F. This film, I want to give a shout out to people who do enjoy this. I've seen some people who do have some sort of time for the Ice House, and good for them. Like, I'm really happy for them. I would say it's not quite as amateurish as Stigma. Like, whoever was putting the dialogue together probably kind of could write a bit, but it's just more a question of, like, the tone is completely off. That it felt like someone was trying to write Cluedo or something. It felt like a really bad adaptation of really terrible characters that were for some reason iconic for some IP that isn't actually related to a creative field.
Right.
That's
like Knives Out.
Yeah, it was really, really bad.
Everyone is off-putting to the max. Um,
They play croquet for about 20
oh,
minutes and talk about nothing.
they talk about nothing, but it's like it's dumb people trying to sound like smart people dialogue. So someone just drops, oh, well, yes, of course, this is a capitalistic system, just into the middle of some nonsense that they're spouting. And then life just goes on because none of that mattered. It was inconsequential and
It's
annoying
like
for us to sit through.
what's the one with Sharon Stone with the legs? Basic Instinct.
Yeah.
Like Basic Instinct free dialogue, but not as clever. I also put this is what people who have never seen Downton Abbey think Downton Abbey is like. There are
But
no sci-fi, but people do sort of drop blah 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 socialism every now and then. I'll say.
listen, 1978, John Bowen unironically wrote the line, "The village people never come." That's not what I've heard, but that is a line of dialogue in the film, and it's like not only is it clunky, but it can obviously be taken to like humorous double entendres. And I think there's kind of either a lack of awareness or somebody kind of leaning into something being performatively crap with this film, which makes me resent it all the more.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. Yeah, you did get the idea that the actors resented the script.
Absolutely. Well, and that makes the performances all the more off-putting and the scenario all the less convincing, right? Because like, yeah, these weird twins that want to shag each other all the time, they aren't really trying to convince you to stay in like this is a nice place and you should stay here in this health spa because we're friendly and we make, good conversation. We're convincing good guys. No, they just constantly shit all over everyone and make out in front of their plant. And it's like, yeah, I do suspect that you're up to no good, and everyone else in this scenario should expect that you're up to no good. So yeah, it's hard to get emotionally invested in it too. You put this F tier. You said the edge of F tier, and you said some people like it, right?
Some people think there is some redemption in that there's some scares that aren't terrible. I thought the scares were terrible.
I don't remember. I don't remember a scare, to be honest. Could you give me an example?
No.
Yeah, I know that the Creatures. There's like a band that's Susie Sue and somebody else. They're called the Creatures, and they have a song inspired by the Ice House.
Ooh.
And it literally spells out the plot. It's like one of those kind of embarrassing 90s movie tie-in films where like Will Smith will do it. He'll rap the plot to Wild Wild West. So it's like that, but obviously like a Susie Sue song. So I mean, that's a slightly more enjoyable way of enduring the Ice House's plot if you really need to, but I wouldn't recommend either.
No, I think that's enough.
That is indeed enough for now. We will be back in a couple of days with part 2 when we're going to get into the modern run of A Ghost Story for Christmas. So keep your eyes peeled for that on Christmas Eve.